I want to welcome now Audrey Kitagawa and Hibakusha Basu to join us for this final session. And I'm going to begin by introducing the two of you. It's so wonderful to have you here, both of you. This is the first time I'm actually seeing you, Audrey, in person. We haven't had a chance to speak yet. And and I didn't know when I invited the two of you to be part of this that that I found out very recently that you actually know each other. So
Yes,
that's really exciting. So Audrey Kitagawa, JD, is the chair of the Board of Trustees of the Parliament of the World's Religions, president of the Light of Awareness International Spiritual Family, and the former advisor to the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict at the United Nations. She has been listed in the Who's Who of American Law, the Who's Who of American Women, the Who's Who in America, Who's Who in the World, and Prominent People of Hawaii. Welcome, Audrey, today. So happy to have you with us. And now I want to introduce Hibakusha Basu. She is a United Nations human rights champion and founder president of Green Hope Foundation. She is a peace and social justice crusader, author, musician, and passionate advocate for the Sustainable Development Goals, nuclear disarmament, children's rights, and gender equality. She is the youngest recipient of Canada's top 25 Women of Influence and winner of the 2016 International Children's Peace Prize. Her organization works in 16 countries to empower young people and women, especially those in vulnerable communities, in the sustainable development process. I didn't know this when I invited her, but she has just received the inaugural Voices of Youth Award for her work to educate and engage thousands of youth around the world on the need to abolish nuclear weapons. Congratulations, Hibakusha, and so much gratitude to you both for all you're doing. I'm so grateful that you're here. Audrey, there's something that's coming out today that is truly historic, that you are one of the founders of, and it's called the Hiroshima-Nagasaki Accord. It's the first time in history that 4 of the world's most prominent international, interfaith, intercultural organizations have come together to call for the abolition of nuclear weapons. You chair the Parliament of the World's Religions, one of these founding organizations. Can you talk to us about the Accord? How did it come about? Why now? And what is the significance of this global interfaith initiative for the very first time when all of the world's religions are joining together to call for the elimination of nuclear weapons?
Well, thank you so much, Cynthia, and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I want to say that it's such a privilege to be on Humanity Rising's broadcast on transforming our nuclear legacy on this, the 75th anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I just wanted to let everyone know that we did a world premiere of a video that was created for this 75th anniversary. And in that video, the announcement of the award to Kekashan was made. So we had the world premiere at 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time to mark the coincidence of the timing of the bombing of these two cities, Hiroshima, on August 6th. So I would, really appreciate for the audience to see this video because it was specifically made for this event. So it's very important for like-minded persons to come together in community, and that really helps us to cultivate a very vibrant civil society so that when we mobilize, it will also create significant transformation to help make this world a better place. And of course, all of the people who have been part of this broadcast are members of civil society. So each person's voice is very important. And yes, I would like to say that it is the first time that these 4 global interfaith organizations have come together to create this Hiroshima-Nagasaki Accord. And of course, you can see this accord and read it more in depth in the 4 co-sponsoring organizations. That would be the Parliament of the World's Religions, United Religions Initiative, Religions for Peace, and the Charter for Compassion. So each of our websites will have the details and the actual accord, together with the over 75 endorsers who have already signed on to the accord. And may I welcome everyone listening to also sign on this accord. And each of the organization's website will have mechanisms in place where you can sign on to the accord as an endorser. So, as chair of the Parliament of the World's Religions, this aspect of the accord actually came about in June of last year, 2019. I was in Tokyo attending the G20 Interfaith Forum. And since I was already in Japan, I decided to go to Hiroshima to meet with the mayor and have a discussion with him about the Parliament of the World's Religions possibly doing a regional convening on the nuclear issue in his city. And the 75th anniversary was coming up this year. So I wanted to see if he would support such a convening. So as you know, the Parliament is very well known for its ability to convene thousands of people under an international umbrella, people from all different faith traditions from around the world. The mayor of Hiroshima was very gracious and very supportive. And I looked at the different facilities to see whether they would be large enough to hold such a convening. And he did recommend that I also invite the mayor of Nagasaki to participate. Well, not long after that trip, I received a call from Bishop William Swing, who is a founder and president of URI. And I shared with him about my trip to Hiroshima, and our conversation broadened to include URI, the Charter for Compassion, and Religions for Peace to work together to draft a joint statement calling for the abolition of nuclear weapons. So Bishop Swing actually was a primary force in bringing together a consultative process to engage a number of persons from across the spectrum to help draft the Hiroshima-Nagasaki Accord. And after many months of working on drafts of the accord, it was in fact finally completed. So the original idea was that these 4 leaders of the accord would have a ceremonial signing in Hiroshima with the mayors of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And as it turned out, a Japanese monk that I knew was also planning several events in conjunction with August 6th. And, like a lantern parade for peace in Hiroshima Park, an interfaith cultural event in an auditorium. So I discussed with him the possibility of having this ceremonial signing with the mayors and the heads of the 4 interfaith organizations at the beginning of his cultural evening in the auditorium. And he was so gracious and agreed that it could be done. Then this pandemic happened and plane travel stopped as countries went into lockdown. And this led to the cancellation of our trip. But the accord remained. And discussions started to occur about having a broadcast of various nuclear experts on August 6th. By then, everyone was on Zoom and other internet-based platforms. And the idea of doing a video was decided upon because the many people involved and coordinating all the different time zones and dealing with potential technical difficulties of a live broadcast was not very appealing. So a video was decided upon, and we have over 25 presenters in this 1-hour video. And we are very fortunate to have former President Mikhail Gorbachev featured in the video, together with former Secretary of State George Shultz. And a whole panoply of nuclear experts have also recorded their participation in this video. So it was eventually recorded. Everything was put together. The video team worked around the clock. And, we had multiple drafts of the video, but it finally was of the taping quality and presentation that we were able to do this world premiere launch. So really been a privilege to have this opportunity to work with so many different people involved on this issue, including testimony from the Hibakusha. And I would really commend everyone listening in today's broadcast to please do see that video. And if you go to any of the websites, the four organizations, you'll be able to have information on how you can click it on and watch the video. I'm sorry, you have to unmute your phone.
I'm seeing in the chat that many people would like to see the video. So it's the websites that we've just put the Hiroshima Nagasaki Accord link in for people to see, that lists the organizations, and the organizations' websites all have the video, as I understand it from you. Yes, Audrey?
That is correct. And I can send you actually, Cynthia, the flyers. Actually, I did send you the flyer. And you can feel free to circulate it to the participants. So all they have to do is scroll down and click on the button, and either YouTube or Facebook will be able to take you directly to the broadcast.
Great. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you. I want to make sure we have time for our second panelist, but I just want to ask you, the Accord specifically calls for 9 steps. If you could you talked about the importance of civil society, and I just want to say that I'm so happy to see this kind of initiative, because it made such a difference during the Cold War to engage the clergy, and the clergy mobilized so many people in civil society. So that's my prayer here. But if you could just maybe mention one of those 9 steps, what you think for civil society, for citizens, for people with us today, which one would you think would be the most important? I know they're all important, but where would you suggest they start? Just one of the steps.
Actually, I would say call number 5 would be the call to join for citizens to join a nuclear weapons abolition group, to march in the streets, write letters, pray fervently, and demand that institutions stop investing in the nuclear industry. And the reason why I say this is because not many people as a whole around the world are well versed on this subject area, nor are they keeping up with the latest developments of the nuclear weapons issue. But just this morning in New York Times front page, there was an article that there was a classified analysis about the efforts underway inside Saudi Arabia, working with China to build industrial capacity to produce nuclear fuel. So the analysis has raised alarms that there might be a secret Saudi Chinese efforts to process raw uranium into a form that could be enriched into weapons fuel. This is according to American officials. So all persons should be concerned about the growing proliferation of nuclear weapon states, of which we currently have 9. And we are not eager to look forward to a 10th state joining. So we should truly care about this issue, because it does affect not only each person, but as we had shared earlier, the environment, which we risk polluting with radiation for thousands of years.
Thank you, Audrey. And I'm seeing that people have put the video link in the chat. So thank you for doing that so everybody can see it. I want to move now to Hibakusha. And I have just lost my screen. One second. Here we are. Okay, back. And again, welcoming you today. And I just want to say, I don't know how you've done all you've done in the short time you've been on the planet, and deep bows of gratitude to you for how you've come to this work in so many areas. I want to just start by acknowledging you and how much you've touched me in the short time I've known you, and honor you for what you're doing. And I want to start by saying you started work with children on peace, justice, and sustainability when you were 8 years old, and founded Green Hope at age 12. What moved you to start working on disarmament? And how did you educate and engage children all over the world on this issue? How do you do it? And how do you deal with languages? How do you do it, really?
Sure. Before I start speaking, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Cynthia, for inviting me to be here today. And I'd also like to mention that it's wonderful to be on the panel with Madam Kitagawa. So, yeah, I'm glad to be here today among such like-minded people who are so dedicated to helping make our world a better and safer place to live in, a more peaceful place to live in. So I consider myself to be very fortunate to grow up in a family where empathy and compassion were just, ingrained in us, just parts of our daily life, just second nature to us. And I grew up thinking that that was what every family, what was normal for every single family and every single person on the planet. And helping others was not an effort for my family. That is what I learned from my parents and grandparents. And I imbibed that love, passion, and empathy for our planet and for humanity. And when I was 7 years old, I had seen the image of a dead bird with its belly full of plastic. And my 7-year-old brain could not stop thinking about the agony the bird must have gone through before it died. And I knew there was something really wrong with that picture that should not have happened. And that's when I decided that I would start my work on helping protect our planet. So I started by planting my first tree on my 8th birthday, which is also coincidentally World Environment Day. And I worked on the ground for several years before I founded Green Hope. But as I started working on the ground, just focusing on the environment, I realized that all the world's challenges were interconnected. You could not just focus on one and ignore the other. So I realized that gender equality, peace, the environment, our biodiversity, all of this was connected to one another. And I have always been a voracious reader, and when I started reading and researching about more of our world's issues, and I started hearing stories from my parents about the pointless destruction of not just our planet, but of humanity. And that included stories of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I started wondering why people didn't talk more about this and why people didn't know more about this. And I made it my mission to be able to spread this awareness amongst my fellow children and youth and ensure that we too had this knowledge to be able to go out there and make a difference. So I was about 9 or 10 years old at that time. So I started believing in disarmament education from a very young age. And when I founded Green Hope Foundation, I was 12, it was with the sole mission of enabling children and youth to take actions to protect our planet and humanity and giving children that platform to know about the world's problems first and then take actions to find solutions to those problems. And you asked about how I go about the disarmament education. I started by conducting workshops, explaining the links between all of our world's problems. Most of the communities that we work in are actually a lot of the children don't go to school. They don't have access to formal education. Some of the sustainability issues that we talk about are very difficult for them to understand. So we started by using music, art, dance, drama, sport, fashion, eco fashion, and writing to spread awareness about various sustainability topics from peace to climate to our biodiversity to equality. And actually, just a few days ago, when I was 12 years old, I'd written a song on peace, inspired by the stories that I heard of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and all of the wars that were going on at that time and before me. And just a few days ago, Green Hope Foundation actually released that song, which we sung together during this week, which has been focused so much on peace and disarmament. So basically, our mission and my mission has been to spread awareness about these extremely crucial issues, make sure that the taboo surrounding them is removed and that people, and especially children and young people, actually know about them and then they come up with solutions on mitigating these problems.
Wow. Um, your wisdom at your age is and what you've done is just extraordinary. Where do you go from here? Where does your disarmament dream go from here? You've just won this award. Where do you take it from here? And the Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the award calls for youth to take up this issue of the abolition of nuclear weapons. So you've been kind of offered that mandate. So where do you go from here? What's your dream?
Well, first of all, this award actually vindicates my belief that we cannot solve these issues through rhetoric alone. The need of the hour is collaborative action at all levels. And this award really recognizes the importance of young people in peace building and disarmament, which is what Green Hope strives towards. The moment you think about the word disarmament, schools often move away from that and frame it in a way that it's only a topic for adults to discuss and those in power. But nuclear weapons do not discriminate. And it is my belief that if children are educated from a young age about the horrible effects of nuclear weapons, the destruction they cause, not just to humanity, but to our planet as well, the plants, animals, and birds that they love so much, then they'll start reading more about it, trying to learn more about it. And when they grow up and slowly come into positions of power, they will not they will definitely not move towards nuclear weapons, but they would advocate strongly for disarmament and world peace. And I can see this from my personal experience. And you asked where I'm going from here. This is what I want to continue to do and make sure that the coming generations have that education and have that taboo removed around disarmament issues and actually learn about why it's so important that we move towards a complete abolition of nuclear weapons and the harms of radiation on us as human beings and on our planet, the plants, and animals. So Green Hope Foundation works every day at a grassroots level on peace, nuclear disarmament, education, and social justice. And we firmly believe that education is the most powerful tool to achieve this dream of a peaceful, equitable, and sustainable world. So our slogan now is we need books, not nukes, because highlighting the importance of disarmament education and the importance of education in general, because that is what allows us to know our rights and know that we have this opportunity now to save our planet from literally total annihilation.
Books, not nukes. That's beautiful. I mean, just so inspiring. And I'm just monitoring the chat, and people are so inspired. And, you're the future. And I really wanted to bring you here now because you've given me so much hope. And I'm just seeing people saying hope, hope. And just so again, to both you and Audrey for all you're doing. And I want to come around to the final question for each of you now, which I asked the previous panel, which is on this 75th anniversary of Hiroshima, what is your prayer? What is your reflection? What is your hope? What is in your heart? And I'd like to start with you, Audrey, please.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. As I've listened to the stories of the Hibakusha, the survivors of the nuclear bombings, it becomes very clear that they live to tell their stories of suffering, tragedy, and pain, and that they really have to be able to know that their sharing was not in vain. So their survival from the first horror of the nuclear bombings in history really compels us to listen to their stories. And what becomes clear is how vivid their memories were, that were seared in the pain and horror of that time in their lives, and the sadness in losing loved ones under such heinous circumstances. And we should not let their suffering and their dedication to tell their stories pass away with them. Many are elderly now, and there are fewer and fewer Hibakusha. So while we have recorded messages from them, we must adopt their dedication and commitments to to speak out against nuclear weapons. And may their speaking ring out loud and clear in our hearts and through the generations now and yet to come. And I also applaud the work of interfaith organizations, because 80% of the world's adherents are of some faith tradition. So therefore, their representation in civil society is a huge segment. And more, this paradigm of interfaith organizations, faith communities coming together in this paradigm of cooperative engagement, of joining hands in achieving mutual goals, really should be applied across the spectrum. And this is the age of coming together. So we must be willing to drop our lens of insularity and territoriality to distinguish ourselves, our country, our own individual faith tradition. But more and more in this globalized world, we have to be seen that partnerships, cooperative action really will allow us greater leeway to achieve mutual goals, to achieve peace and for all of humanity, and to know that together we are not alone and we can achieve our mutual goals. And may peace prevail on earth.
Beautiful, Audrey. May it be so. May it be so. And now to you for final words, Hibakusha.
I think that my hope is that my generation will not, like I said before, not waste time on rhetoric alone, but take concerted steps towards disarmament, because we have literally wasted 75 years on just talking about nuclear disarmament, but not actually being able to abolish nuclear weapons. And for me, that hope involves education. For me, that hope involves stopping the criminal waste of finite resources on building weapons of mass destruction, and instead taking that money and trying to solve the world's most pressing issues of poverty, hunger, and discrimination. And my prayer and reflection would be to shun violence in all forms and manifestations and respect life that is God's supreme gift, and find that inner peace within ourselves, and then take that inner peace to and project it to the world so that we can achieve world peace. And lastly, in my heart, my faith in my generation, the faith that I have in my generation is so important right now, because I truly believe that we will be able to educate and empower ourselves and the coming generations about the disastrous effects of nuclear armament. And it is my hope that through this education, when the coming generations become leaders, monarchs, prime ministers, and presidents of their countries, they will take the right decisions for humanity and for planet.
Thank you for these inspiring hopes and dreams, and taking us into the future with hope. So deep, again, deep bows of gratitude to both of you for coming for this last session. I know we're over time, so I just want to thank everybody for being here.